Steven Curtis Chapman's Canadian tour is the first time that Canadians have really had the chance to hear his heart since the death of his daughter. But Steven will be the first to say his family is still on the journey to healing, and they know they wouldn't be able to do it without their faith in God.
What have you learned about God throughout all of this?
I was able for so many years and have been able to kind of do a pretty good job of thinking, oh, well, I know I'm just kind of struggling, but I've pretty well, I can get this together enough to come before God and kind of feel like, yeah, I got it sort of together here now. Yeah. And something like, a tragedy like losing our daughter, strips all that away, pulls everything out from under you, and it's just kind of like, okay, God, I don't understand you, I don't get you, I don't have any clue how we're going to survive this as a family, but I trust you. I trust you, and sometimes it's screaming it, God, I trust you. You hear me? I don't even know if I believe it, but I'm saying it again, and just to be able to be at this place now in the journey and really know God really has not left us or forsaken us. He has ways that are so mysterious to me, and yet I do really trust and believe and know at a much deeper level of knowing than ever before that He is good, and that we will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, and we are beginning to see that, and we're going to even see and taste and see much more of God's goodness, in the place that He's preparing for us, where our daughter is, and I'm as convinced of that as more than ever before.
Was there ever anger towards God?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's probably the part that is the hardest to process, especially when you've grown up in a environment that I grew up in the Bible Belt of, the buckle of the Bible Belt in the South and the U.S. and, in church, and you just, you don't, you certain things you don't do. You don't spit in the wind, you don't tug on Superman's cape, you don't pull the mask off the Lone Ranger, and you don't get mad at God. I mean, exactly how the song goes, but something like that. But that's just not, not allowed, and but the processing of that, is different. I think it's taken me a while even to be able to call it that, and admit that. And yet to say, yeah, this is, I think when I read David in the Psalms, how long, O Lord, sometimes, I think my tendency has always been you read that with a, in a very acceptable Christian tone, it's like, how long, O Lord, yes. How long, like
in your regal
voice. Yes, in your regal voice, your James Earl Jones voice,
yes.
How long, O Lord. And then you realize, I think David's just pounding his chest and pounding the floor and the ceiling, saying, God, how long? What are you doing? Where are you? I trusted you in this. This is what I get, for that. But then in the same voice saying, and that's why, again, I'm so thankful the Psalms have been, have really been that lamp for my feet and light for my path, navigating this dark place, trying to lead my family through it, to say, yes, I'm angry, and really for walking through my wife and her anger, which is even a different level as a mom and a mom's heart, and just personality and the way you process things, and being able to really feel, take all of that to God and say, God, I really, as angry and confused as I am, the only thing, and I heard someone say it, and it's just so true, the only thing I can imagine being more hopeless than walking through something like we did, and just with the anger and all of that with God, would be to try to do that without being able to turn to God. I mean, that would be the ultimate despair.
Out of these ashes, beauty will rise. Since that dark day in May, Steven has written a new album entitled Beauty Will Rise, a collection, he says, of personal psalms he's written to God.
Beauty will rise. What beauty has risen out of all of this?
Well, I mean, some of the stories, even sharing with you, watching just the amazing ways that my sons, my children, especially my son Will, has stewarded this story. And that's kind of, we feel like in a way, and he even has said it, it's like, a sacred trust in a way that God has entrusted this to us. We would never want it. It's crazy to even call it a treasure or a trust, but a story to share, and a pain and a grief. But we're not alone. I mean, and that's the thing too. I think we've learned that that's one of Satan's enemy's greatest weapons, is to say you're alone. You're the only one that's ever hurt like this. God's never been so cruel to anybody else in the world, and you just curse God and die, shake your fist, and because this is so unfair, and thankfully we've spent enough time in China and places in the world, and all you have to do is turn on your TV and look at Japan, and you think, we're not alone. Just seeing how my son has stewarded this and walked through this to say what would crush me and destroy me, and by all, in so many ways should do that, I'm gonna trust God with it and know that He's gonna do something in my life out of this. And that's been a beautiful thing. I mean, it would strange to give it the word beautiful, but it really is. To see one tangible thing that we talk about, and Mary Beth, I think it's on the back cover of her book, a picture, but there's a 6-story building in Luoyang, China, in the Henan province of China, that has about 140 special needs orphans that have come there to be medically helped, to be loved, to be cared for, and it's called Maria's Big House of Hope, named after our daughter and her, prayer on February 20th to go to be in God's big house. And the hope that she had for that is the hope that, allowed us to be able to build that place and fund the ongoing work through organization Show Hope that my wife and I founded several years ago. That's a beautiful, amazing thing. It's got Maria's picture. I was just there a few months ago, and walk in, there's a big picture of Maria there, her flower, Maria's flower, for those that know the story, and it's in Mary Beth's book, and on the cover of my album, a little flower picture that Maria drew the morning before she went to be with Jesus. It's got her flower painted all over it, inside and out, and everybody in Luoyang, China knows, take me to the building that looks like the sky. So that's a beautiful, amazing thing.
Here today we're interviewing two very famous artists that you may not know, but Maria Angelou and Leonardo da Shoei.
What has all of this taught you about being a father?
Just beginning to learn some of the answer to that question, what this is teaching me as a dad. Because initially, you shift into just a survival protector, how do I lead, how do I just lead my family through this, this dark valley. Thankfully, because of, not anything but just God's grace at work, I don't sit in a place of any regret and say, gosh, I wish I'd have told Maria I loved her more. I wish I would have spent more time. And it's the reason I wrote the song Cinderella. I can look back and go, hey, that was a night I was giving him a bath, and I was trying to learn to be more engaged and involved. And certainly in moments that I look back and go, I wish I would. I remember one of my first thoughts was, I just should have given her butter. I just should have let her have the butter. Because Maria would eat butter by the handfuls if I'd let her. Yeah, I just loved butter. And I'd always be going, Maria, you put a little bit on a bread, but you're not going to eat the whole, And of course, the first thoughts are just, anything that I did that, said no to her, I wish I had taken back. And obviously that's not realistic and wouldn't have been right anyway. But I think, being able, with our, I think as a dad, again, it's probably not anything that I feel like, gosh, I had no idea, and now my eyes have been opened, as much as just, I knew these things were important, but now I know, how much more infinitely important they are, to to cherish the time that you have, to make sure they know how loved they are, and then to make sure they know how safe, a place they have with us. And I think as a dad and a mom, just trying to let our kids know that this is a safe place to ask questions, to struggle, to not struggle, to just need to tell the story. And we're gonna walk through this together, and we're gonna trust God. And I don't get him, and I don't understand, and I can't answer all your questions. And just to be able to say, I don't know, I don't understand. And that goes against everything in me, because as a father, I always kind of thought I'm supposed to have all the answers, for my kids. And so maybe what it's taught me as a father is, that I really don't have to know and have to have the answers to be able to say, maybe for them to see and know that, well, it's enough that Dad trusts God, and I trust Dad. And so if Dad's trusting God, I'm going to be able to trust God too, even though I can't explain it, even though I can't, make sense of it at this point. But I can say, but I really do believe and know that, that it is gonna all be okay, and it is all gonna be well, and that's the promise that God's given us. And along the journey, we're gonna see some amazing ways that God's gonna give us little glimpses of that, and so.
And beauty will rise out of everything,
Yeah.
out of all of it.
Absolutely.
Say tights in.
Say goodbye, Toodles.
Say bye, Tutors, boo. Tutors.
Bye, Toodles.
What? You're a tutor.